Today, okay. So earlier today, Oz and I were watching the ice raids in Chicago, and she was absolutely horrified by what's going on, and it kind of helped me see a little bit of kind of like the disconnect that we're having in society. For example, the other day at work, I had a girl come in and try and convince me that Texas had invaded Illinois or invaded Chicago, which that really wasn't what happened. It's just the Texas National Guard was there in Illinois, being deployed to Chicago. So there was something a little bit different there. But anyways, what I wanted to really talk about is I want to talk about there's a lot more that's going on. Most people see the end result. They don't see how we got here. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about, as far as why is ICE in Chicago? Now, we could go back because this has been brewing for probably about 5 years now, probably longer, but for 5 years is really when it's been on my radar. So when Biden became president, the borders became open. A lot of the border states, started busing people to Chicago, busing people here, busing people to New York, busing them to other parts of the country, so that they could feel what the border states are feeling. Well, part of what was happening, and we kind of were hearing some rumblings of this, but there was never really too much to confirm that these people that were coming across the border, they were getting essentially welfare checks or social security or universal basic income, whatever you want to call it. And because they usually came with families, they were getting somewhere around $3,000 a month, on top of like another $1,000 to $1,500 a month, in food stamps. And so these people are just coming across the border in droves, and then they're getting bused to other parts of the country. Well, fast forward a couple of years, and I catch an interview on Redacted. There's a guy that was going around talking about what's going on with the Border Patrol and things like that. He was writing a book on it, and he was touring, to kind of see the effect of the open borders with Biden and everything else like that. Well, he comes across Chicago, and come to find out, I believe it was Mayor Lori Light. No, she's for Detroit. Lori Lightfoot. No, the mayor of Chicago. Maybe, I don't remember exactly who, but the mayor of Chicago, what she ended up doing, or what a plan that was happening that this guy was talking about, is that, because these migrants were getting guaranteed government money, what they wanted to do is, they wanted to kick out the poor black population, which I think it was somewhere around 7 to 10,000 people, and they were actually paying them to relocate to other places, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to beautify the city, do a bunch of remodeling, because they knew they had all of these people coming in with all this money that they could sit there and count on, and everybody was going to get rich. And so, because the black community didn't like it, they were being pushed out of their homes in favor of these migrants. There were rumblings of that Chicago would be the epicenter of a civil war. So fast forward into Trump. Hi guys. Fast forward into Trump getting into office. Now he's sending ICE. Now I recently watched an interview today, on Redacted. For those of you that follow them, I follow them because they have, um, it's the least biased news that I can find. But anyways, the guy was talking about how ICE actually works, and ICE is like a division within Border Patrol, but it's under Homeland Security, and a majority of it has to do with like lawyers and stuff like that. And so, like, they'll get a warrant to go pick somebody up, and there'll be somebody in a car. They have to pull them out, but if there's other illegals in there because they don't have paperwork for them, the lawyer will advise them, no, you got to let them go, let them be. And so, so the ICE isn't necessarily just going after random people, if what this guy is saying is accurate. So hey, what's up, Grandpa? Nice to see you, buddy. Um, this is something that I don't know. Uh, just if this is the way that the process is working, then that means every person that they're going after, every door that they go knock on, they already have an investigation that's been completed that has decided that these people need to be detained by ICE. And so, because of the whole culture that was going on there, as the fact of all these migrants were coming there, those that still have their citizenship or that have cultural ties or political ties to this whole situation are starting to go out and to protest in droves. But I think the average American looks at what's going on and goes, "Yes, this is a good thing," because I tell a couple of stories. My mom used to complain even back in the 80s. She, being a single mother with me, she went to apply for food stamps and they offered her $10, but the lady next to her didn't have a job. She wasn't even here legally, and she was getting full benefits. Yet my mom wasn't able to get any food stamps, and I experienced that with my wife and son. I was the only one working, and we were living off of maybe $150, uh, $150 a month. And they offered us $10 in food stamps, whereas there's this girl that couldn't even speak any English with 4 kids that was getting full benefits and just showing up just to make sure to keep her benefits. I could see how this frustrates the average American. It frustrates me as well. The quickest way to implode a nation is to have an excessive drain on its benefits, and the excessive drain isn't necessarily by Americans. The excessive drain is by the foreigners that we're letting in for political reasons and political causes. I still think, and I think that there are people that say that the Charlie Kirk incident is what started the Civil War. I think the Civil War started, the rumblings of it started in 2016. The first shots were fired in 2020, as far as J6 goes. But I think that in reality, I think that we're still in the middle of a civil war. Now, there is talk, apparently, as part of the article I was listening to on Redacted, is that there is another gentleman who's being tasked with the force that can just go in there and go after anybody that is not a U.S. citizen and deport them back to their home country. Because the way that they're doing the process now, it's more chaotic and it's causing a lot of problems, but they're not really having as much success as we would like to have them see. I mean, if you have 20 million people come across the border, how you've got a small percentage of them that voluntarily left, but all those that didn't. And also my buddy who is in Dallas, he's having to fight off the cartels. As these migrant groups move into these different cities, some of them may be bringing affiliations or maybe moles or underground cells for different cartels that are coming across the border. And then therefore they challenge our local gangs, and then that puts them in a point where we're seeing, like, if you guys remember, right before I left Cincinnati, or excuse me, the day after I left Cincinnati, there was a major shooting. Also, if you go into other places, if you're in the traveling community like I am, you will hear that, yeah, that some of these foreign gangs are starting to move in, and the American gangs are pushing back. Gangs are not good, but I would rather have a native born gang member that has more scruples than somebody who is foreign born and sees us in a completely different way. So I think that the whole ICE thing is a good idea, but I think that, I mean, how do you have a small tactical force that is supposed to deport 20 million people? How does that happen? And that's really what we're getting to see, front and center with the with everything that's going on in Chicago. I think that Chicago eventually will end up becoming the epicenter of whatever civil war or civil unrest or kinetic fighting that we have between us. Um, just because just because of the just the that's just inherently it became the epicenter because migrants were being set there. they were kicking out the local population. Now ICE is there to clean up and to, set the city right, because it was in a lot of ways going to be taken over by migrants. We're starting to see a lot of this stuff happening in Europe as well. And if you guys, know that you guys know that I follow Meyer. Um, uh, should get back on your meds. Oh wow. Um, okay. Well, tell me how you guys think it's going to happen, because I mean, if you guys know so much more, I would love to hear your opinion. You know, but I just it, there's a lot swirling around, and it's just a matter of time. Um, well, Don Juan, I'm happy for you that you like big women. But anyways, this is my basic this is my basic understanding of the situation. I wanted to share my ideas with you guys. See if you guys thought I was anywhere close, or if I am just rambling. Some will hear me, some most will not. But I'm just curious what you guys think. And by the way, guys, this this live stream is brought to you by Stephanie at openairproperties.net. If you're looking to go off grid, if you want to get out of the city, you want to get away from all this chaos, have a blank slate of land. She has land in Arizona, Colorado, and Arkansas. She usually does is one acre or more at a time. She can bundle multiple acres for you if you're looking for it. But if you go check out Stephanie at openairproperties.net, let her know that Friar Tuck sent you. Or you use Friar Tuck when you check out with her. She'll give you $50 off of your deposit. It generally runs about $200 per acre. And that also includes the tax and everything else like that. It's all owner finance, so you don't have to go through the bank. As long as you make the payment, the land is yours. So if you're looking for land to start your homestead, or try and get ahead of the curve of what's going on, go check out Stephanie at openairproperties.net. Okay, so does your mom know you are your phone this late? Wow. Do you see the gray hairs in here, CMA? But competing with immigrants for jobs and living spaces, I'll defer to Doug Stanhope. I do not know who Doug Stanhope is. I'm really kind of picky about the sources, because so many sources generally tend to, like, okay, Reuters puts out a news article. MSNBC does an article off of Reuters, does their own spin on it. Then the prepper community catches a hold of that, gets the fire under their ass, and then takes their interpretation of this. But this came down from Reuters. It's third time, fourth time removed. I usually like to go as close to the source as possible to get the information, because you will get more accurate information versus playing a game of telephone with the news, because each news agency takes a spin from a different competing organization and puts their own spin on it, so that therefore they can get out there and get in front of that. Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes is a good source. um I have started coming across Nick Fuentes. Alex Jones, I can't. I have a hard time dealing with Alex Jones. He's gotten better over the years. Ever since the lawsuit, he has become a lot more palatable and a lot less uh, aggro, we'll say. Because I mean, just I back in the day, like I've been doing media and blogging and talking about stuff like this for close to 20 years now. I used to have a blog. It was called Citizen of the Soil. I've actually had a couple of them along the way. My ex-wife actually made me stop, because she was worried that we might face some government agents at our front door. So I kind of kept a low profile, but I always did my own research. And back then, Alex Jones and Bill Cooper were the two big people that people listened to. I generally noticed that the people that listened to Alex Jones were so fried, their nerves from being over anxious, at like to the point to where they kind of were having psychotic breaks in a lot of ways. Um, and I've noticed that anybody that truly follows Alex Jones has that overall demeanor that they've been so overloaded with negative information that has just fried their nerves, and that they've just basically had a full-on meltdown. Yeah, it can be a little a lot to take in, but it depends upon how you digest the information. Because I've come across the same information without getting angry about it, or without creating this whole bias argument around it. For example, I followed the free man movement, but anyways, he called 9/11 names and everything 2 months before it happened. Um, he didn't call it. He just caught an interview. Um, he caught an interview before with that some reporter had interviewed Bin Laden, and Bin Laden said that something was coming in the next couple months. A news article that nobody ever talks about, that only made the rounds a couple of times, was Newt Gingrich even said that he had stopped flying during that point in time, and there was some sort of warning given on national news by the I guess you'd be the Bush administration, or the Republicans, because it was Newt Gingrich. I remember listening to it, and I remember that article when he was talking about the fact that there's chatter about a possible terrorist attack on U.S. soil, and that they might use planes. And so they actually were supposed to put everybody on high alert. So to say that Alex Jones called it before anybody else a couple months, well, that would mean that he had to call it before Bin Laden said anything, which he's taking Bin Laden's words and using them. And also Newt Gingrich at the same time was talking about it. So therefore, did he predict it? No, he just had his ear to the ground and was listening to the right news to be able to know that this was coming. Does this make Alex Jones some fucking, all-seeing eye? No. He just keeps his ear to the ground and connects the dots. But the information's out there. The reason why we can't call our leaders for treason is because they make the information public, so that therefore it's not being kept hidden from the public, which is when they would be brought up on charges of conspiracy or treason. Everything that they do is out in the public. So, I would just, I wouldn't say it's more or less being able to call something, more or less just paying attention to the sources and understanding how information actually moves. So, there was an interior threat assessment. Bin Laden determined to strike inside the U.S. Um, yes, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was going on around it. From what I understand, from the sources that because I mean, it right now it's speculation, because there's so much controversy around everything. Until we get actual unbiased, uncensored facts, we're always going to be speculating, just like the Kennedy assassination. Everybody's going to always speculate because we have no definitive facts. And so the source that I go through, calls it out, says that the government did not in its directly participate in it, or create this. However, when it did happen, they turned a blind eye. So they didn't coordinate it. They didn't do anything. They just let it happen. Now, you guys have also heard me talk about, I've come across, retired alphabet people in my travels. And one of the guys that I was talking to was a retired NSA agent. And we talked about how funding happens. And that in itself was a two-pronged attack. By allowing even though they didn't plan 9/11, by allowing it to happen, it allowed the groundwork and the right mood of the country to be able to accept the Patriot Act, which was undoing everything that the Church Commission and some government accountability commissions had done over like 20 or 30 years. One piece of legislation completely undid all of that. That's where we get the wiretapping and the FISA courts, and a lot of different other things, like the counterintelligence program, or COINTELPRO, was revived, which was directly related to several high-profile assassinations, including RFK and MLK. And so it's just one piece of legislation. So it was in for those that are war hawks, for those that are in the know, as far as being able to get funding and to be able to have unfettered access to do whatever it is they wanted, allowing it to happen was in their best interest. Not only that, you know how much more funding went to the military industrial complex, went to the alphabet agencies, went to counterintelligence programs, and all this other stuff. So even those agencies that could have warned us, or kind of lightly sounded the alarm but didn't really sit there and say that this is a serious threat, they're just like, we're hearing some chatter, this might happen, just so that they could avoid, so that they had plausible deniability. Although it may seem like a blunder, it was even in their best interest, because now it made it much easier for agencies like the CIA to operate within the American borders, which is they're not allowed to. So, was 9/11 an inside job? No, it was not. It wasn't planned. It was just allowed to happen so that certain parties could benefit from it once it happened. So they knew about it, but again, they just did nothing to stop it because it benefited the right people. And those are the people that were supposed to warn us to begin with. So, can I get a wave and a smile? What's up, Fluffy? Okay. So enough about him. Have you ever read Kissinger Report, State Department Memorandum 200, declassified in the 80s? No, I have not, Joshin, but I'd be interested to read it. Okay. Well, thanks, DJ. There's an interior thread. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Funding that went to regime change. The goal was to topple 7 countries in the Middle East. Yeah, have you there's a report that's recently circulated. It was originally made in the mid to late 90s by the Rand Think Group. Um Essentially it was a 20-year plan to destabilize and weaken Russia so that we could go in there and take it over and take it out piece by piece. That's why we see like Azerbaijan. I can't even pronounce half of these names, but like there's a lot. Like I think they have something like 22 countries that border that border Russia, and there is some sort of strife, whether it be proxy wars that are counter to the Russians, or something like what we did in Ukraine, or where we try and bring NATO in, things like that. So that's another good white paper to read. Yes, because they don't like sovereign nations. Yeah, Azerbaijan. Yes, thanks, Brad. That's a good one. One world government. Well, you know what though? We do net. You can. Okay, so one world government. People have put emotionally they have attached an emotion to it. Oh, it's bad, it's this, it's that. A one world government in itself is neither good nor bad. The players at hand that are pulling the strings in the government can make it good or bad depending upon the results and the intent of their actions. If it's for control and power and greed, well then it's probably bad. If it's benevolent and there to benefit the people, then it's probably not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so a one world government in itself is neither good nor bad. It's the people that are in charge that make it good or bad. A democracy is neither good nor bad. It is the people in charge that make it good or bad. Okay, it is a neutral thing. It is the emotions that we attach to it. So if we are to become an interstellar planet, which Elon Musk is talking about going to Mars. Okay. So if he's going to Mars, well, that means we're an interstellar planet. And eventually we may come across other living beings. According, I think it's the Blake theory that says that there's somewhere around 40 million inhabited planets in our universe, just based upon the law of averages and numbers. So having a one world government is in our best interest as we become an interstellar planet, because we need unified representation to the galactic world, because they're not going to come down and deal with just Germany or just the United States. They're going to come down and deal with planet Earth itself, and trade deals interstellar wise will be done in that manner. So do we need a one world government? Is it something that we should do? If we plan to become interstellar and jump off of this rock at any point in time, it is a necessary point of evolution. But we have to, before we even get to that point, we've got to fix our own problems and our own infighting and our own culture before we can even start thinking about jumping off this planet. So again, um, one world government is just a buzzword that people use to create hysteria, because they want to say the bad actors, and bad actors always want to be in control of whatever it is that goes on. Okay, so do you know that the world does not revolve around the USA? Sure fooled me. Is a vessel of absolute power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Not necessarily. Your ear is bleeding. Okay. I hate to ask this, so embarrassing. Can help someone please send some. Yeah, no. Selena. Um, put user in timeout 24 hours. Okay. So, Selena, you're not going to ask for money on my channel. If you guys, yeah, no, I'm to a point like I was homeless for a while. So, yeah, I was asking for money, but I don't do that anymore. If you guys notice, I've got a job and I'm taking care of myself. And now I do this more as a hobby than as a full time job. So, hey, I'm talking to you. So what, true crime? Um, John, tell me the Middle East and Ukraine. Okay, we will never go interstellar. It's impossible. Josh, and I disagree. I mean, they thought it was impossible that we could fly in planes 500 years ago. Man would never be able to do that. But look at what we're doing. We live in a universe of infinite possibilities. Anything can happen. Pigs can come flying out of your ass in if the right conditions are met. So I think that anything is possible in this universe. And so to say that it's impossible is to limit yourself. That's one of the great gifts that we have is we barely have scratched the surface on our knowledge. We will, in order to really understand our place, not just in the world, but in the universe, we're going to have to go explore at some point in time. Van Allen radiation belts, can't get past them. Um, yeah, maybe not with today's technology. That's why we've never gone back to the moon. Um, yeah, but again, it boils down to technology. Um, right now, so we have been doing combustion propulsion, but in the 80s, because I understand, because apparently Meyer helped the guys with an equation that they were having because they were just a little bit off. But in order for us to be able to go interstellar, we are moving to something called a tachyon drive, and it's just now starting to come public. But they've been researching this since the 70s or 80s as a mode of as a mode of propulsion to get us out into the universe, because what we have under current technology doesn't work. So give us 100 or 200 years with the evolution of technology, and we could very easily be interstellar. I just took a bunch of uh, okay, 3 months. Well, extreme. That's nice. Please, sir, could you talk to me? You people are fucking nuts. All right. So, we're civilized human beings here. I know some of you trolls. I'm one of my trolls is kind of pissed off at me, but we do like our troll army here. So if you're gonna troll us, at least be entertaining, because otherwise you're just wasting our time and your time together. So if you're gonna troll, at least be entertaining. But does anybody want to make okay? So I go, man. Please read the PDF. SM. Okay, can you? I'll have to read that. I have to say, sir, your ideas are pretty out there and unrealistic. What makes my ideas unrealistic? Oh, sorry, I'm not typing. English is not my first language. Well, then you probably should go to somewhere where you can. Um, no, there will be. I have. Yeah, there are too many jealous women if I were to allow that to happen. Yeah. So, um, but anyways, um, with that being said, ugh, ugh. All right. So it's been a long day. I've been kind of under the weather today. I wasn't feeling well. Um, Tuck likes the entertainment. Hey, what's up, DFH? Ain't seen you in a while. Well, actually, I saw you last time. Trying to be a troll. Well, that's fine, Lilith. But if you're gonna try and troll, at least be entertaining. That's the general rule. We used to have a moderator. His name was Bucknut, and that was his requirement: is that you weren't allowed to be weird and you're if you're gonna troll, at least entertain us. Yeah, all is well, dude. I mean, I don't know. I've been like, I watched John Wick last night. I'd actually never seen it, and if you have an animal or you like dogs, that was real. Even for me, it was really hard to watch what happened to that dog, and just to know it, because like having Sam, you kind of relate. It's like, oh god, I know the amount of rage that dude was feeling, and it's like that whole movie, you're just sitting there cheering him on, like, yeah, that's what you get. And but like, yeah, I went to bed and then I woke up and I basically ended up sleeping all day. It wasn't until about 5 o'clock or so that I started getting some energy, but I'm already starting to get tired and want to go back to bed. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of getting used to the weather and all this other stuff that's going on. Plus, working around people. Oz at her job, a lot of people are sick, and at my job we don't have sick people. um Most everybody stays pretty healthy, so we may get some colds coming in, but I don't think, like, she's over at McDonald's, and McDonald's, you know they're gonna, all those kids, they're showing up to work because they need the money, so they're not gonna call in sick. And too much pills on me. I'm starting to get sleepy already. I want to talk to somebody. Well, Lilith, good for you. So you think interstellar technology already exists and it's achievable? I'd say that's pretty unrealistic. Okay, well, Mr. Diplomat, what if those Tic Tac UFOs? Okay, so we know that we have uh, uh, government, like secret government programs. Like, you guys remember, was it the B-2 stealth bomber, the long nose one, the first one that came out during the Gulf War? Okay, we'd built that. We researched it in the '60s, built it in the '70s, and had been flying it around by the '80s. It wasn't until the early '90s that we actually showcased it. So, um, with that being said, who's to say that they haven't had this technology being secretly created, and now that they want it to come public, that we're now getting sightings like the Tic Tac UFOs? Okay, so the thing is to say, do we or do we not have interstellar technology? Well, if those Tic Tac UFOs actually belong to the United States and one of our secret programs, yeah, we're definitely interstellar. So, sorry, it's not my intention to troll. Okay. All right, Lilith, have a good one. Um, the Blackbird. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Oh, I'm right, Yoda. I am a nomad. So, for those of you who do not know anything about me, I am Professor Tuck, or you can just call me Tuck. That's what most people call me. But I'm a nomad. I've been traveling for about, off and on, for about 25 years. I'm generally lumped into the homeless community, but I've never really fit the bill of being homeless, as far as the status quo of what everybody thinks, because I'm not a drug addict. I don't have mental health issues. Um, I don't have like a criminal record or anything else like that that's going to bar me from employment. So I don't have all the obstacles that everybody thinks that all homeless people have. I've just traveled and, been in the homeless community, because when you travel, that's just kind of the way it is. So I've been coast to coast, border to border, and everywhere in between. So I'm a nomad. Yeah, there's a couple of us. DFH, I believe, is also a nomad, a train hopper, if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, so right now I'm in Missouri, but a few months ago, I was in Arizona, and a few months before that, I was hiking the East Coast. Going from Virginia to Florida to fucking Maryland. I was even in Washington D.C. last summer, so or last year, I should say. So wow, it's only been wow. That Washington D.C. was weird. So there is a lot of assumptions in that statement. If the technology existed, then we wouldn't have used it to explore exoplanets at our near solar system at Kepler. Hold on. There's a lot. Okay, at the technology. Who's to say that we haven't? Okay. Who's to say that we didn't? Um, the government is compartmentalized, and when you have black budget programs, those black budget programs aren't accountable to anyone. They have the ability to do all kinds of things. My great uncle was in the remote viewing project. That was, almost it was kind of a black budget program, but it was within the military, and so he nobody knew that the military was using psychics back then in the 70s. So um okay, so what have you said? And then near solar system. Okay, well, there's a lot of assumptions in what you're saying too, Mr. Diplomat. So I mean, we could both make assumptions until the facts come out, but I'm under the assumption that those tic tac UFOs belong to us. They're not from another planet. So, do you think we have satellite lasers? Um, well, the Navy's been outfitting some of our ships with laser weapons. Even some of our planes are being outfitted with laser weapons. So, if we've got weapons on ships and planes that are lasers, why wouldn't we have one on a satellite? So that's my overall assumption. So. But anyways, guys, it is that time for me to get going, get heading out. I got to get up early for work in the morning. Um, but the burden of evidence is on you, my friend. Extraordinary claims makes extraordinary evidence. Yes, but Mr. Diplomat, um, they have convicted people with less information than what you and I are saying. So, burden of proof, it's circumstantial. So I mean, if you're gonna like, we could call circumstantial. We could say, well, if this is true, then this is possibly true. And since we already know that the original presumption is true, that we do have black budget secret science projects going on. That's the whole hysteria or mystery around Area 51 to begin with, other than fucking UFOs, because since the 1940s, it's been widely accepted that we caught some crashed UFOs. The original news report was we seized a unidentified flying object, and then a day or two later, the story was changed that it was a blimp or a weather balloon, and so therefore it was hushed up and carried out. But the initial report was the honest report, and so we already know that we have secret science programs that are going on to give us weapons that will keep us ahead of the curve in the next war. Okay, so um uh anyways, I'm just trying to read that. Okay, anyways, so with that presumption, because there is enough evidence and facts to back it up, then to say that those Tic Tac UFOs were not a spin-off of that program, because we also know about Project Paperclip and other programs such as Project Blue Book that were declassified. There were most of the claims for UFOs were not real, but there were a couple of them here and there. The MUFON and the UFO Congress and all that stuff is a front for Project Blue Book. I mean, we know this because there's evidence to be able to prove it. So to say that we did not try and reverse engineer and create the technology ourselves is stupid. Plus, if you look at the U-2 rocket program that the Germans had, and if you understand the stories of the Foo Fighters, you would know that The I believe it was World War II pilots used to say that they had these unidentified flying objects that were that were flying next to them. They called them Foo Fighters, and there is rumor that the reason why the Foo Fighters couldn't harm anybody is because they couldn't figure out how to use weapons with that technology, modern weapons with that technology. Otherwise, they would have won the war, and that's how close Germany was to actually winning. After the war, after Berlin fell, and after Hitler took himself out, he there the all the allies started searching for all these programs, and the United States came across this is where Project Paperclip comes from, is the United States came across an underground bunker where they were doing the U-2 the U-2 rocket, which if they would have gotten that would have actually changed the tide of the war as well, because we were just getting into rocketry. So to say that the Allies or that the United States, because we were the ones that found that hole in the mountain, who's to say that we didn't take that technology and expand on it ourselves? It's all AI. Okay. I understood people have been convicted with less, but that has nothing to do with scientific experiments. Okay. Well, there's enough evidence to prove that to at least give credence. If we were before a grand jury, it would be enough to move forward. So, like I said, it's deductive reasoning based upon the facts that are before us. Hey, what's up, Bear? Nice to see you. So, but that's just my overall. It's my overall understanding based upon the knowledge and information that I've come to. So, but God, I'm starting to get overheated again. So, but anyways, guys, I'm gonna head back to bed so that I can get rested up for work. But it's good seeing y'all. Um, yeah, it's good seeing y'all, and I will see you guys in the next live stream that I do. Good seeing y'all.